What up? What's up? Y'all know what time it is. Hot Mike Friday. Yes, sir. What up? Big shout out to everybody out there in the chat. Big shout out to all my people on the back street. Y'all know what time it is. Roll them up. Get your drinks together. Sit back. Relax. Enjoy the show. Let me give my shout outs right quick. Big shout out to my man, Mr. Derek Lockett in the house. What up, fam? Yo, Melee. What up, fam? Shake that button in your way in. Big shout out to my man, Double M Desbo. Bite down and shake that like button. Appreciate the love, fam. Big shout out to Mr. Bub Johnson in the house. What up, fam? My man, John Denbury in the house. What up, fam? Info Fire. Yeah, what up, fam? The one and only, the incomparable, long-time supporter, Mr. Dickie Foster in the house. What up, fam? Big shout out to my main man, Mr. Vernon Stark. I see you, fam. Viking World family in the house. What up, fam? Big shout out to my main man, Mr. Michael Collins in the house. What up, fam? And the one and only Eli Monster in the house. What up, fam? All right, fellas. Well, I got everybody up in here now. Hold on one second. All right, then I don't want to blow nobody's speakers or nothing up while I do this. All right, fellas, tonight's show, we're going to be talking about, we went over pedigrees and, how we were able to create some of the things we were able to create and be consistent with it. And one of the things that I noticed that we needed to talk about, being that we went in through all of that, was traits. Remember, we always dealt with traits. Generally, most of the going hard dogs you see, and based on the way they were bred, they all looked alike. Most of all our dogs always looked alike. They were going to have those, what I call airplane ears, or they was going to look like the buck dogs. You could tell a buck dog, well, a heavily bred buck dog, yellow buck dog, because of their ears. But if you notice, based on how we were breeding, the bodies never changed. Some people would think that we had, our dogs were bigger. They looked it bigger than their weights. That was a trait. Because we didn't go from, we always stayed within 9-10 pounds of their box weight. So it wasn't like we were pulling our dogs all the way down. We always wanted to have dogs in condition, but pulled as tight as they could be pulled. Because your keep, depending on your keep, the amount of work, it's like almost like any other sport. If you're working out consistently throughout the year, you're going to bring yourself into a body weight that when competition comes, you're not going to be able to just jump right in. You try to stay within a certain parameter, and then when you got that, the date that your football game, your wrestling match, you kind of got an ideal time frame. Then you have that amount of time to where where you're going to be at your best peak performance. That stuff is things like you pick up. I mean, if you've been in sports, it's easy for you to understand where I'm coming from. If you've never been in the sports, and had to see what you had to do to train to be in them type of situations. And again, every sport is different, but the thing is, regardless of whatever the sport was, you had to be at peak performance. Peak performance, you perform better and you protected yourself from injury. Now, injuries, depending on what you did, you were always going to have injuries. But a well maintained body, is hard to injure. And that's how we felt about our dogs. You know, we didn't do a whole bunch of the jumping around and them falling and hurting their backs or none of that. Everything you try to keep at least 2 feet on the ground, regardless of what it was. But their bodies, all their bodies look the same. You know, we had powerful dogs, but they looked bigger than what they actually were. To us, it always gave us an advantage, simply because we knew based on our traits how we were going to be coming in. We weren't really concerned about what style of dog was coming, because for us, we didn't know and it didn't matter. But based on what we were using, we needed to make sure that they could utilize the things that we were using as far as what we considered what was going to help us. If we had one that was pushing, you know, them back ends had to be right because they were going to be driving. We already conditioned for pace, so it's hard to get pace if you don't have push, and then be able to maintain that push over a long period of time without the muscle, you know, what I call, they get that muscle tension. When you get that muscle tension, it's almost like having a cramp. You know, these things cause them to breathe. We always knew how we were doing based on our dogs breathing, because they hardly ever, even though they were pushing, they were very familiar with their breathing based on the push. See what I'm saying? I mean, pace with power has to work together. If you're pushing fast and you got power, you're going to be dominating, regardless of what the dog is doing. I mean, they got to be able to dance and move legs, do all types of things where the dog just constantly, this strong pushing. They catch a leg along the way, destroy it. They're going to catch a chest hold along the way, but their main intention is to constantly keep pushing. Now, in our day, we've seen a whole lot, and some of the best dogs I've seen, great dogs, man. And that pace is phenomenal if it's done right, because it's almost like, regardless of what you got in there, this is not going to last long. Dog can't keep up. Now, does pace have a lot to do with that? For us, yes, because we train for it. It's not something that the dog has to make his mind up over. It's something that you train for. Some dogs have different styles. When I tell people about styles, suppose you a face dog. Well, face dog that grabs the face and doesn't do anything with the face, and he's just standing there holding the face. Those can be dangerous dog, but a face dog that can grab a face and who's on that fast-paced push, they're gonna skull drug a dog. That pace has a whole lot to do with how long you plan on being there. Traits. When I speak of traits, face dogs, that's a trait. Back end dog, a trait. Leg dog, a trait. Chest dogs, traits. Can you breed for traits? From our point of view, yes. I believe you can breed for any trait that you're looking for. But how are you able to maintain that trait? Now, notice when I said y'all see a whole lot of different ways that we were breeding dogs. But we were always able to maintain that trait. You're going to see in a lot of cases, and we went over these things, just go back and watch the video and look at the pedigrees. If you look at the pedigrees, you'll see what we were heavy on and what we were bringing into something that we was already heavy on. See, most of the time when you heavy on a certain line of what you're doing and you're bringing something in, that something in has to either accommodate what you're doing or bring something new into what you're doing. Then we were always stuck on what we had, and we knew what we wanted it to do. When we were bringing that something in, we weren't bringing it in to enhance it. We were bringing it in to double up on a certain thing, something. Whether it was the wind, the body, the ability to maintain that pace, that work, or maybe it's the trait. Great back end dog. You know we're going to get some of that in there because it's a style. If it's got great wind, you want to add that to your style because you never know when time's going to become a factor. And so you never wanted to get caught up into that certain trait and then ignore everything else. So it was almost like a balancing act. You had to either already have something there, and anything that you implemented into it, it had to enhance what you already had, or it could hurt you and take away. That's why we were very particular about how we bred. You know, it was more like we seen most of the dogs that we were breeding into, or we had a history on most of the dogs we were breeding into. So for me, I always thought seeing was always a lot easier to believe than hearing people talk about it, or the word of mouth. The journal in American Game Dog Times, they gave us a pretty much of an insight on what we were looking for, as far as you could go down through there and read match reports, and you could kind of get a general idea of what was what. But then being we traveled so much and seen so much, we also got a chance to see a lot of some of these great dogs and dogs that came off of some of these great dogs. So you kind of generally had an idea of what you could expect out of a Boyle's dog, or a Rascal dog, or an Eli dog, or a Bolio dog. They just had certain styles and certain traits that were familiar with the line. So if you're standing there and you're looking at it and you're seeing it, you're going to see some of the good points about it, and then you're going to be able to examine some of the bad points about it. But the thing is, you're going to be able to see these things for yourself. People very seldomly, they tell you their bad points on a certain dog. For us, we kind of more like took the good, even for the ones that the losers. To me, Tommy Boy was a great dog. She was finishing everything in less than 30 minutes. 20 minutes. What I noticed out of her, she was a dead game dog. Now, people might have, how you got the ones that finish and you don't know how they, you really don't know when their gameness has ever been tested. When we talk about, them quick finishers, you don't know if they game or not because they, there was nothing out there really to test them. Well, for Tommy Boy, she had something that put her gameness to the test. She passed with flying colors. She didn't make it, but the fact was, for anybody who seen or knew or heard, that's what made her so popular. Because not only was she a killer, she was really a dead game dog. When it all boiled down to it, unbelievable, unbelievably game. So uh, I thought Pepper was a very game dog against Queen. I mean, I seen Pepper smash two, and didn't look like she had a chance, which she didn't. She never got into it against Queen. The thing was, if anybody ever questioned Pepper's gameness, it was tested because Queen definitely put her to the test. You know, that to me is, even though she lost, I felt that she was still a great dog because she could probably produce herself. She was definitely a hard biting dog. She definitely had the body. She was definitely game. But she didn't have what Queen had. And that is that destructive, overpowering, you know, not all dogs got that. There are special dogs out there that's just like that. I thought Brat was one of them. I mean, I've seen a lot of them ones that somebody always think they got something that's gonna stick in there, and that ain't the one. That ain't the one. Um, I think Joey was the game one. I think Satan was game because he had power. He had a mouth. He had a relentless attack. He had some great matches, but a lot of people always question his gameness. Well, he went a couple long ones. The thing is, nobody ever seen him in real trouble. And so, did that make people feel like they could beat him? Yes. Because if you've seen him ever go, you would think I got something to go in there and blow through his ass. And then your time come, you ain't blown through his ass, and guess what? You're in a heap of trouble. Because, you know, I always say there's certain traits. And when you got a trait that is so powerful and has been bred like that over a time period, it's almost like these dogs are programmed to do one thing and one thing only. And Satan was and BJ and Charlie and them, they were those type of dogs. Smart but determined. And they were chess dogs with mouth. And a chess dog is a good chess dog to get up in your chest. You're gonna be in for a long night. A long night. Especially one like Satan, he wasn't one to get up in the chest and drive you and pin you in the corner. He would get up in your chest and lock in and just crunch. And you got a dog that you standing up, and he has to always try to stay on his feet. But then the dog, you know, Satan and them, they were smart. They didn't push. Once they got it, they would even lay down with it just to come up and, do that jerk up just so they can you see their face literally just disappear. And 5 times in 5 different places, same thing. And you would think after all the people who've seen him, why would you keep trying to go into him? But there's certain people who dodged him too. Lionhead was one. There was a couple more. Mo know him better than I do, but I know Lionhead was for sure because they was on that ass. But those are exceptional traits that were actually bred some of that old George shit, and that coming down off that Luther, Dolomite, Duke, all great chess dogs. And that trait was bred down regardless of how they was breeding it and what they was breeding it into. That trait never went anywhere. I think Charlie and them was some of that old George shit mixed with some of that Jeep shit. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was some Jeep shit added in on Charlie and BJ. But you know, we were highly strung out when it came to breeding for traits and bodies. You know, bodies had a whole lot to do with it too. You know what I'm saying? Because if you look at a real conditioned bulldog, you know, a match dog, they pull pretty tight because you know water can hurt you. Because again, we always work knowing that if we had to go time, we were prepared to do that time. Wasn't guaranteed to, but you never know. So why not be prepared for that moment when that moment comes? Hold on. Let me make sure I got everybody in here. Let me see. Big shout out to my man Tony Montana. My man Mr. Courtney Edwards. I see you, fam. Green Team. What up, fam? My man Bub Johnson in the house. What up, Bub? You know, and we talked about our breeding program and how to create something that was yours. Even if you guys were moving forward in the now. Okay. Bloodlines of the past really, you know, I just don't think that would even matter moving forward if you were trying to do competition work. Because, like, in our day, not every dog was a match dog. And we were breeding for a certain purpose. If you're trying to do competition work, you would be more going after a body to work with. Dogs that have body. What bloodlines had body? You know, them miniature tanks. Or some I've seen some big tanks. But your purpose is different. So y'all now are transforming from doesn't matter what's in the paper at that point in time because it's important at this point in time and now you need to know the trait and the purpose that you're breeding for and be able to bring that into your breeding program. Whether if you got one that's going to climb up the wall. I would love if I was, you know, in your day, one was running up a wall or one was winning confirmation shows and had them bodies that everybody was up on. You would want some of that because that enhances what you're trying to do. It enhances your purpose. You're going to be able to get that trait and lock it in, and you're going to be able to breed for that trait and not have to go back outside the yard, but to remember that one little bit that you add in there to either enhance what you're doing or at least tighten up what you already got. And that's why I'm saying traits matter regardless of what spectrum that you deal with these dogs in. I always felt that if you're going to be moving forward, why does bloodlines even matter? Because for what? everything in the past they had different purposes. They were all these dogs that we talked about, and here these are all match dogs. They already had a purpose. Everybody was breeding and being competitive, and they knew what they wanted to be competitive with, and they knew what type of dog they wanted to have to be able to do that. So, if that worked for that purpose back then, our tools and our grading procedures and the way we looked at dogs would be totally different than I would expect you guys to look at dogs now, considering, we're in a different time period. So when I see a lot of guys talk about, I got this on my yard, I got that on my yard, well, I mean, most of everybody who got a bulldog gonna have something of the past in their bloodline, something. But the purpose ain't gonna be the same. So why does that matter? In order to understand our time period, you had to either been living back there and doing what we was doing to understand a lot of the things that we talk about. Because I was sitting back watching one of the shows, and I was surprised, that kennels like the Havana Boys and dogs like Joey and Art, Roadblock. A lot of these people, a lot of these guys who watch this show really don't know who them people are. They don't know who those dogs are. So that right there told me about the audience that we carry here, even here, because I looked at a lot of the names, and it might have been familiar to some, but I was surprised it was unfamiliar to a whole lot of other people. You know, how can Joey was a great dog. Grand Champion Doogie was a great dog. But did anybody know that Doogie, the dog of the year, got beat by Flash? I never seen during that whole that conversation was going on. Nobody brought that up. So because bringing that part up would have killed basically what the conversation was about. You have to understand, dog is when you were dealing with the dog of the year situation. Y'all have heard us talk about it because we talked about the dog of the year and when the journal got sold and how they did that move, and then when Jack had it, was Jack biased, or how did Jack actually handle that? Well, I didn't really get involved in how Jack did his choosing. It's his journal. He allowed to choose and do how he chose to do it. But I can truly say he wasn't too far off base. Because if you go back and look at some of the runner-ups and look at the competition that these dogs had, they were worthy of the reward. And sometimes that reward brought in a lot of heat. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, remember Doogie did not have to get back out there. But some of the guys, they took that chance and Flash beat Doogie, the dog of the year. That's a couple. I let Mo talk about him because he knows that he wasn't the only one. But I just happened to watch a show, and I was noticing that how much when we sit down and we do with these pedigrees, we can talk about a lot of the dogs because we knew a lot of the dogs and other dogs that came down off these dogs. So you kind of knew how and what was their demise and what led to a lot of their success. Not just the dogs, but the dogs that came down off of them as they moved into the future. When you have 30 years in this dog game, and you actually were in that part of the game, it was your duty to understand every line that was out there and capable, because you never knew who and what and you were going into. So it was always, you know, trying to better what you got. So in order trying to be better at what you got and based on what you were doing, it was important to know everything that was going on. For you, some of you people who take books like the Journal, the Sport and Dog Journal, the American Game Dog Times, it's good reading. But for now, for this now. But for us back then, it was like a horse race. When you go to the track and you rate, they got the program, and in the program of the horses, generally gives you the races of the year and where they placed that, and it would tell you the purse because of the classification. So that's the way in horse racing that program gave you a whole lot of information, and you got the list of everything that's going to be in the sixth or fifth or sixth race and what they was running against, and you have to get in there and figure out, is this dog going? Is this horse going to be the one, or is there another horse out there to beat it? Well, the dog game was basically almost the same way, except for our program was a Sport and Dog Journal and American Game Dog Times. This is where we built and got all our information from. We didn't look at it for history purposes. We looked at it a lot different. We were looking at it to see what the hell was going on in the country, what's happening out there. You know what I mean? What's the next move? Who's doing what? Who's selling what? How did this go down? When did that go down? You know what I mean? It was important because everybody was on the same mission. The betterment of what they already had, or they were looking for competition, or just trying to stay in the loop of what happened, what was going on. So it's easy to sit in the now, and talk about something that you never did before. You never was in that situation. So it's easy for you to talk, but I guarantee you, living it was a whole lot different, because guys got to understand, if you wasn't in them books, who the hell gonna be talking about you? How would anybody know about Jeep and Homer and Sandman and Buck and all these other great dogs if it don't be for them books? What would y'all have to talk about? What would you have to get you to even discuss a red boy or a Mayday or any kind of breed if it don't be for that process? So to talk like you can have a conversation in the now, and that right there, it just it gives me a good insight on what our community of the now really looks like, what it really is. Because there's a lot of people that follow us and come to these shows who've been around but were never a part of. Yeah. You have to understand, from our point of view, American Pit Bull Terrier was bred for a certain type of purpose. That purpose was something that was started many, many, many years ago. And it kept that certain standard, and these dogs that was created over all those years that led up to even the now that you guys still have to talk about. You're still talking about a lot of dogs from 20 years ago. It's hard to talk about anything in the now because of the time. There is no book out there. You have to be a part of that community to even have any idea of what a damn good dog or who the good dog is or anything, because you don't have the resources that we had then. So totally different type of game, totally different types of conversations. So when I see, people going back there and trying to have a conversation, that's a hard conversation if you wasn't really you wasn't a part of that part of the game because you really don't know much to talk about. We were just fortunate to be out there and be able to sit down and have these conversations because we were out there in it, been around all the people that basically did it and knew the insights because that was that community. That was what that was. That community consisted of a lot of people. So great history. But that history is what it is. It can never be a part of the now because times are totally different. So when we start talking about traits and going back and talking about dogs like Grand Champion, first thing I found that was crazy before I move on this trait thing was when you're talking about the best dogs in the country and you got 1,000 something matches that went on, how do you determine the what? How did Jack determine the what? Well, it wasn't just Jack. Jack had a lot to do with it because he had the final say. But you've seen a lot of brothers, uh, people of all races and creeds and nationalities who had the opportunity to be a part of that. It was a reason why these certain dogs shine over everybody else. Now, if you had bullshit competition and you became dog of the year, you didn't think the subscribers of that magazine wasn't going to give you hell? Jack didn't maintain his success, doing bullshit. No. Don't ever get that twisted because the market was too big. You have to understand, look at the journal. Look at what was going on in the journal. When you got your dog on the cover of the journal, that was an accomplishment. When you got dog of the year, you have that dog was representing the community for that year. And not too many times I seen a bullshit ass dog, who got it, toward the end when they got out of Jack's hand. I think, they used that, they took advantage of what was done in the past to be able to further their ability to move dogs around and sell dogs. That's what I've seen happening. I would say after 2008. I would say about 2008. You know what I'm saying? So those are the things that when you start talking about what was going on back there and how it was going on, you gotta understand there was a lot going on, and you've seen a lot. You've seen every type of breeding. You've seen every type of style. You got a chance to see all different types of conditionings. I mean, it was just a part of the game that you didn't have to question because you would be able to see it for yourself. Compared to now, when you can throw a paper up there and you've seen and got familiar with names of dogs, but you have no idea of why you like that dog because of the way it was bred. Do you know any styles? Do you know any traits? What is it about Bolio dogs and Eli dogs that you like? Well, he got a hard mouth. Well, not all Eli dogs got a hard mouth. How do you know which one you got? You can't just depend on that. At some point, there's got to be a major foundation dog that you can say, okay, he got a hard mouth. I know he got a hard mouth. I know he got a hard mouth. Now, can he produce a hard mouth? That's how I look at that. Just because I got a dog and I put two dogs together does not automatically mean I'm going to get what I'm supposed to get. And I am surprised that I see so much of that because that's the new way of thinking now. I never thought about biting through hide determining your ability to bite. Always felt that dogs like that had a mouth would be dogs like Luther who got up in your chest and then 6 minutes later it's over. That's a dog that has a hard mouth. He gets in there and he closes his mouth and it's over. Dogs like Queen, aggressive hard mouth. Why do I say Queen had a hard mouth? Because everywhere she put her mouth, she busted it open. We know that was a bull. If anybody, if you're familiar with traits, boils, if anything they had going for them, it was going to be that mouth and aggression. But it was, not for all, but for us to say, why would we say the majority of them was on a clock? We would say that about Eli dogs. The majority of them was on a clock. Why would we say things like that? It would take more than just one person to say that for that to stick throughout the years. There has to be more than one person saying that for that to become a part of a trait that everybody would basically agree to. Because if you were in the community and you were out there and you seen enough of them, you seen enough that you wanted to know, okay, that's a Bulls dog. That mouth, that got mouth, but do it have a staying power? Then you might have one coming in there with a Bolio dog and you going against a Bulls dog, and that Bulls dog doing what it do, but guess what? That Bolio dog ain't going nowhere. Then you start looking at that Bulls dog a little different because now you start looking at your watch because he's on a clock. These are the things that we had in our favor back in those times when we were in that part of the community and you were seeing all the competition and you had all that information, and then you took that same information and you got a chance to see these things for yourself. So I can understand why you would think, I guess the dog of the years, they wasn't really about that life. Well, most of the dogs of the years that I seen over the years, they was really about that life. And if they weren't about that life, the community would have spoke. And we already know how, when the community speaks, back in them times, the community speaks. They could make you or break you, and we didn't even have an internet. The journal alone could break you, But the only way that you would know that you would have to be a part of that to understand and live in that time period to understand. When I be saying these type of things, I have the right to say these because these are the things that I know. I don't have to read it. I can tell you for myself. So that's the difference when we sit here and we talk and we try to make these things as simple as possible by going back and show you things that were done all the way down to why we stuck to certain traits, how we were able to keep these traits, how we were able to breed certain things and be able to maintain the things and be consistent about it. Traits is something that you guys have to live with. And your traits are not as important as they were for us back in the day. I think if you're trying to find a good body, you might like dogs with big heads. You might like them little muscular tanks. See, those are traits. Those are totally different traits moving forward that you guys have to deal with. And pedigrees really don't matter because not all Mayday dogs were big. So we threw that myth out the door. Because if you notice, we had a whole bunch of Mayday bug shit and never had anything over 50 pounds. Never. I had a lot of friends that had them. You know, not all of them was over 50 pounds. So those are the things that you just can't say, oh, maybe their dogs were big because they weren't. Just like all Eli dogs are supposed to be black. I see a lot of Eli and Boudreaux shit that is black, but I've also seen a lot in my time of buckskin Eli dogs. It's just how you breeding it, what you want out of it, what you wanted to do. Nowadays, it's about more of the trait thing that I think is important. So that's why we want to talk about it, so you can understand. When we talk about traits, there are certain things we go after, but you can almost, like, even in our case, regardless of what was on the yard, it all looked alike. So that should tell you that everything and how we were breeding, it always going to be cohesive to what we were trying to do because of how we were putting it together. And if we're putting it together, I think the last show Mo was trying to tell you, we're putting it together because this is what has been working, not just in our yard, but in other people's hands, and it was consistent. So if you take in the same type of mentality and you're trying to build for that in the now, moving into the now, whether it be a wall climber, a weight puller, a treadmill runner, those are traits that you want to build on. Them bodies, them conformation bodies, them nice heads, them nice coats, them naturally built dogs. When they stand there, they got that certain stand, you know what I mean? You don't have to teach them how to stand. They just stand like a damn bulldog's supposed to stand and look like. You know what I mean? Those are traits that if you're trying to lock in something, damn the pedigree, this is the time you go and say, I like that look. I like that body. Look at his tail. Look how he stands. That's confirmation material. I want some of that. Or I see a picture of something. I like the way it's built. I don't give a damn if he game. Wouldn't give a damn if he had a hard mouth, because none of that's supposed to make a difference nowadays any damn way. Because now you're changing your purpose. And I know most of the audience out here, I'm taking it that I'm doing just do my duty to bring these things up, even though we're from the past. But just because we're from the past doesn't mean that we don't completely understand that these certain things about these bulldogs can and will work in your favor if you handle it the right way. Our purpose has changed, but the dogs, they still the same dogs as far as I'm concerned. That's why I don't even understand why is it so important, how a dog is bred anymore. I mean, we're always going to be looking at it a certain type of way because we are always going to have a certain liking for the type of American Pit Bull Terrier we're going to have around us anyway. That's just who we are. We're not going to change that. They don't have to be used to do anything. It's just a line that it belongs to us, and whether my children raise it and they're going to be looking good, and that's still theirs. They're still going to look like going hard dogs. So I'm going to turn this over to Mo, and I'm going to let him get a little bit deeper into this so he can help y'all out in getting this stuff together. Hold on 1 second. It's on you, Mo. All right, y'all. What's up? What up, everybody? Big shout out to the number one supporter, my man. You have to reboot it. Okay. As I was saying, I was talking about Mike, and I was telling y'all how good Joy was. I mean, I enjoy, you know, me. I watch the nephew show. I catch PBK all the time. I just be wanting to bring him up to date on some of that stuff. Man, Joey was a bad dog. Doogie was a good dog. You know, the damn Doogie Man match was a great match. You know, it was some time, but I think it would be more of the competitiveness for those things to happen, and that's why you have grand champion at five, but you still have guys out there making grand champion. They go six, seven, eight. You know, they you know it's all in the competition. And some of them, they dogs be that good, they'll leave that dog out there till he lose. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I just have different feelings for my shit. You know, I liked it, my dog. You know, but when it come down to it, uh, I don't know much about the now to help when it comes to lines and breedings. You know, Mike and them, you know that now shit. I don't really do too much of the now. Only one simple fact is, you know, is really what's the purpose. You know, I'm I'm old school, so you know to talk about you know the now and how to breed dogs and stuff like that. Like I said, y'all references is rough. You know, that's one thing. And if you're just breeding dogs, you know, you know, it could be for anything other than what we was doing. Then my question would be, so what are you trying? You know, I can see, you know, a lot of the Mayday dogs or Eli dogs or Jeep dogs. You know, there's just so many different ones. Were able to win in confirmation shows and treadmill shows, and you know, and you got that kind of thing going on. Like you know, like I said, it was so much activity back then. It was the type of activity that was the factor. And being you guys don't have that kind of access to those type of factors, you know what I'm saying? How would you, you know, how what would you be breeding for? You know, if these dogs was being bred for this type of stuff, then why does it even matter how he's bred if it's just really based on, you know, the purpose of the day compared to the purpose of yesterday? I don't see where the breeding and purpose of, you know, the way we were breeding compared to the way you would be trying to breed now. It's two different things, you know. We breeding on sight and feelings in what we see or what we acquired or what we know. In today's world, you're breeding. You see what I'm saying?
You're breeding for other purposes, or just breeding just to have a good bred bulldog. I mean, and if you breed based on the past history of certain dogs, and because you have the opportunity to have something like these type of dogs on your yard, the factor of their performance wouldn't even be an issue. That'd just be dogs bred like some of the old great dogs. But why would performance be an issue if if that's not the purpose? You want a good bred dog, you're right. You get a good bred dog and you breed the dog and got a great name behind it. But the purpose of what you're doing with it compared to what we were doing with it is two different things. So can't hate on you, because times have changed. And that's why I like talking about the past because I'm feeding you information that some of you guys probably enjoy, you know, listening because you're really trying to learn. I think a lot of the things that I be saying and speaking on is like building the mind aspect of what we were doing back in our time. So at least we have somebody up here in the now that can carry it further on into the future. The more people that know about it or hear about it, it helps move on. I mean, and like I said, again, I'm talking about in our time. It's crazy to see that a lot of guys that claim that here's the things that just trips me out. I'm just gonna just say a lot of shit that trips me out. Knowing from where we come from, knowing the way we did things. What trips me out is the first thing. Everybody didn't go into the journal. That's understandable. That's understandable. And you really can't knock those that did. And without those that did, man, just imagine. Imagine having a whole bunch of guys running around like, I guess we would say like now, proclaiming they dogs here and reclaiming they dogs there and doing all that. The journal brought us references. Journal was just not a place to report. The journal is the reason why a lot of those great matches took place. Remember, the journal was probably a reference to competition. Competition. Without that journal, some of them great matches probably had never happened because the connection would have never came across. There was a lot of information there that you got 36 pounds and you way over here on the other side of the country. We see you, and you was able to. If he believed in his, and you way here on the other side of the country where you both got the same weight, you both got good dogs. The competitiveness in two good dogs, man, they're gonna bring that story together and see who had the better one. Even if it wasn't for the simple fact that the opportunity to be able to make history, because a lot of them 4-time winners or them grand championship, I guess a grand champion, those usually come up legendary and go down in history. It's like we see in those old books on those old matches that was going on before my time. We can sit there and read about those dog men and read about those dogs. Because see, there's references there. My tripped out thing is never will I ever believe that we missed some real great dogs. You could never get me to believe no shit like that. I would never believe that there's some better dogs out there that we don't know about. that slipped through the cracks. Well, what would make this dog so much better? Who the hell was he whooping if he wasn't out there amongst the competition that was out there? Just that part don't make no sense to me, because competition was being done. If your shit is that damn good, then it's only good where it's at. If it ain't over here where it's happening, then don't tell me about some old trash ass shit, that may be good for you, but wasn't shit for us because it never made it that far. So I would trash anybody to try to bring that type of a conversation to me. Because if anybody was anybody, you didn't have to put your shit in the journal. But if you fought anybody whose name was in there, because everybody who wanted to report their matches, wanted to report their titles, okay, if you didn't have to be a part of that. But if you went into me, your ass was going in there. So if you was going into anybody that was anybody treating you so fucking good, you would have ran into somebody. And then if we can never see that or hear that or find that, then where is this great shit that we didn't fell through the cracks because they wasn't in the journal? That's a cap of shit. That's a bunch of bullshit. That's leading y'all. That's anybody that believe that shit. They leading you down a rabbit hole because it don't even make fucking sense. If you got a pit bull dog fighters thinking, there's no way in the hell you would believe that bullshit. But if you ain't got a pit bull thinking mentality, I can see where you could weigh that shit and not try to understand it. But I am a dog fighting with a pit bull mentality to tell y'all. If you was anything, you didn't have to be in the journal. If you had the dog, you didn't have to be in the journal. If you had a good dog, guess what? You would have found your way into the great matches of those great dogs that we talk about today. The dogs that did make the journal, the dogs that were in the journal. We don't know all them damn dogs is in some of them matches. Maybe they was supposed to be the great dogs while they sitting up there in the losing category. Maybe a Barracuda or a whole bunch of other one of these dogs. Maybe these dogs that we didn't know nothing about, that we can shine on them and say that dog wasn't shit that he beat anyway. But maybe at the time when they bought that shit over there to go into that dog, they might have believed that shit. Now that the dog done lost, he just falls back into nothing and nowhere. He'll just be already recorded as a dog that one of these great dogs beat. Wouldn't really have a name. Ain't nobody gonna sit up there and say that was a bad moment and he lost to a great motherfucker. You see what I'm saying? So I just don't believe that shit. I don't even hear that shit because, if half of these guys out here today didn't understand the difference between the fast lane. You know why you hear everybody that always whine and frown over the fast lane and keep themselves in that little sucker socket? That's what I call it. The sucker socket, because that's all it is. It's because you didn't have it to step out of that. If you didn't know what the fast lane is, then what level of dog could you be on? If you don't know that much. Oh, there was a fast lane out there. And for those who frown against that comment, it's usually because they never made it there. They maybe had never had the dog to even test something, to even try what it looked like to be out there in the fast lane. Think about it. You're so quick to beat up the past, but it's the past that carries the torch. Ain't much of shit being passed around now. They may still have great dogs, but they ain't got the great ones like they did back then. Competition ain't all that great. To me, I believe there's more champions that lose around here today than there ever was. And back then, they was champions losing, but they was losing on a different scale because you go out there and you winning, and you're hitting the journal, and we using the journal as references that now we don't have to hunt hard to find what we're looking for. And that's what one of the major things was when you was dealing with those type of things. How do you think Ram and Doogie hooked up? You know, Flash and Doogie hooked up. You know what I mean? How you think Robert T and Grand Champion Duke hooked up? How you think Fat Bill hooked up with Tom over there at Pro Set to put Chi Chi and May May together? Or Grand Champion Virgil when he beat some good ass champions. You know what I'm saying? How do you think these dogs all came together? How do you think these matches happened? Shit, I didn't even know who the Church Boys was up in there, Tennessee. I didn't have no idea who those guys was. They ain't no journal dudes. But one thing for damn sure, when it came down to matching a dog, guess what? They didn't give a damn. They was matching fast lane. They didn't care. They you know what I'm saying? And that's how they slipped up into the journal. And believe me, I'm pretty sure they never reported. I never reported. It was the people, but we were in shows. We did shows. We were involved in shows. More than 2 or 3 dogs on a card, and they're good. I'm pretty sure the guy who was throwing it, he was making sure that they reported the matches, because on some of these matches, dudes be wanting their shit reported. You know what I'm saying? How you gonna report a convention and only put my shit in there, and don't put the other 3 shows? So I know whoever was reporting those matches was reporting them because it was, you know, probably their show. And if you're gonna report, if you got a 4-card show and you running a 4-card show, and they want their matches reported, you know, regardless of what the other person want, he ain't got to want it. It would just be, hey, you throwing the show, it needs to be recorded, and that's why it got recorded. You understand what I'm saying? And that's just how that shit worked. But it's almost like impossible for you to have what you claim is a great dog out there. You know, like some of you new guys be always diving into a purse, trying to pull out this rabbit out the hat and want to fling it out there. Here's the rabbit, and we supposed to believe this motherfucker supposed to be special. Rabbit wasn't shit. If he never made it that way, then he wasn't shit, and nothing never going to be shit if he didn't make it that way. It's not my fault he didn't get there. Because you would never know. It might be sounding all glorious to some of you guys, but to me, Ben, I was standing right there amongst a many a great dog men and watched a many of guys that would love to go into them and they wasn't scared. And if they win, they win. If they lost, they lost. But at least the effort was there. So for somebody to sit there and say, you know, there's probably better dogs out there than half the great dogs, how in the hell could that be? How could you be a great dog if you ain't beating shit? And how many so-called great dogs is out here running into each other that nobody know about? Do that make sense? It doesn't make sense. Especially when you got the journal. Y'all don't have the journal. Back then there was a journal. There were several books out there that was recording matches, y'all. So for those type of stories and shit and comments being made, I frowns on them. I frowns on them because y'all will be some real rookies if y'all believe that shit. You know? How you gonna be great and good as a dog like Mayday or Yellow or something like that, but nobody know about you? Nobody know about you. What made you great then? You know, who was you beating up that was anything like that was the dogs that they were going into? I mean, at some point, if that's what you was really doing, competing, there's no way in the world that we wouldn't know about you. No way. It just don't work like that. You know, and that goes for the guys that want to stay in them little, them little pockets, your little circles. You can be king of your circle, but don't try to widen that motherfucker out there and try to spread it all out here amongst a bunch of great dogs that you never made it outside that little circle you was in to even test your shit against it. See, that's where I go chopping on that notion. You stay in your circle, you're only good as your circle. And we don't know how good your circle because you never widen it out to the space that where we was playing at. We played in a big circle. And even in that circle, you still have fast lane. Everything in the circle wasn't fast lane. A lot of guys who thought they had fast lane dogs, and when they got up in there, realized real quick that they didn't. And how many times you gonna run home and grab a dog and come back and try to jump in there and try to win one before you realize you need to revamp your yard because you could never win in this type of circle because you don't have those type of dogs. That's just keeping it real, and it's not like I'm talking off the top of my neck into my head. It makes sense. Everybody can be, be something if you ain't done nothing. You hear guys, you can have all the knowledge in the world. You can be feeding a bunch of damn dogs. And you might be very popular to a bunch of other people, but then you run into a guy like me with that same old story, same old line, and that's bullshit and trash. Because it ain't done shit to me. It might be impressive to what's around you, but until you bring a piece of that shit over here and put it on this shit over here, you just talking. Bring it and see. That's the way the game works. It's called competing. You competing. If you ain't competing and you're not putting your shit on the shit that's really out there, you might be winning, but you'll never catch the status of those dogs that was already up in that area playing in that fast lane. If you never tested that shit, don't be whining about it now because you can't get the damn, the recognition that you trying to get now that the everything been cooled off and it's safe to stick your head out the door. Because when there was a storm, it was very easy to jump into that storm if you had a badass dog that could ride it out. And that's just how that was. All them damn matches and all them damn books, you mean to tell me you can't pull up this great ass piece of shit that you're talking about in at least one of these matches, one of these great shows, one of these great dogs, or even one of a dog that lost to a great dog. Let me see you even win into him. Give me something other than nothing. Everybody didn't report their matches, then they wasn't doing shit then. Well, I don't know why nobody's scared by it, act like they scared to say it. Then they wasn't doing shit. Because if you wasn't reporting, you was still matching dogs. There's no way in the fuck you gonna be matching dogs and not run into a good kennel or a good kennel. If you was really competing, you would have ran into somebody who was porting matches. Somebody. You would have got on a card and went into somebody. If it was somebody worth it talking about, you would have found yourself in the journal, win or lose. So most of the time I hear these type of conversations showing up, I be hearing showing up by wannabes and guys that can't be. You know what I'm saying? Because it's past their time. They didn't have the opportunity and take the chance when they was doing it then, but they'll come out here and they'll try to make it sound like, they did something, but they really didn't do shit, and they really wasn't on the level that we were on to play like that. Or these circles. You get mad when I start talking about these little circles and it's only good as your dog in the circle, but it's the fucking truth. You can't get mad about that. My thing is, don't spoil the knowledge of today with misrepresented trash coming from the past. You know what I'm saying? They killing the past with that trash because they're not part of the past worthy enough to talk about or to be able to move into the future with it. And that's what it's just boiling down to. You want to hate on me? You can't hate on me because my shit is done and over with. And you sure can't change shit, but I guarantee you can't take nothing, anybody doubt anything I'm talking about. You can't match shit that you've been feeding, shit that you can dig up there if you can go back far as I did and bring it right on up here and sit it right in the same room with me and you'll find out how big your circle was compared to the circle I was in. But you would not do that because you would be a fool, and you know that. Because you know you couldn't stand on that water. There's great kennels out there that was good kennels that just won in certain areas. But at least we know them because if they didn't go nowhere, they opened their doors to let us come. I'm all up in the Carolinas. I've been up in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia. I've been everywhere. Maryland, D.C., Philly, Baltimore. Dudes is matching dogs. And I can damn near pick up a journal and point them out. You know, it's not like the journal was the beginning and means of all ends, but it was definitely a tool to be used in many ways. That's why you had a lot of guys that had litter mates to great dogs, but you'll see the dog being advertised in the journal. Go on Pairs Online and see if you can find a litter mate brother to this dog here that was advertised in the journal, and just look him up and see if he ever produced anything like his brother. Or it could have been two females. Most of the time, historical dogs that made some type of history that was worthy to talk about wasn't coming from just one person. You know what I'm saying? No, people just don't like hearing how really deep the competition was. You know, and it always didn't have nothing to do with just money. You know, how you gonna have a great dog when you can't show the dog because you ain't got the money that everybody else got? No, if you got a great dog, don't worry. You can just stick him on the firing line, and the right people seeing. And like I said, it was a competitive sport, and the eyes don't lie. And you will have a lot of guys who would pick up that guy and be like, man, we got your back. You know, and a honorable dog, man, he'd probably feel funny about everybody betting their money on his dog, but if we believe in that, should give him that more confidence to believe in what he doing because we believe in him too. And that's usually how, you know, good dogs got the opportunity to get around because, like I said, I had many bandwagons I would jump on. I would bet with Hardcore. I would bet with Stone City. I would bet with Strictly Business. I would bet, I mean, it would take certain kennels to go into each other that I would have a question mark. But there's been times that, I mean, I can be wrong sometimes, but I can say it like this. If I'm dealing with kennels that's winning 80 to 90% of their matches, and it's a fact, not just one dog, I'm talking about they kennel as a record. They kennel as a record. And then the percentages is that high. You know, I don't know what this night gonna bring me, but I know 90% of the time they winning, so I'm gonna stick with the odds, which I like those odds. Who wouldn't? You know what I'm saying? Who wouldn't? And it was like imagine the people jumped on the bandwagon with Bakari and Tyrone. You know, he was a gambler's dream. but they were still in the fast lane. And two fast lane dogs was getting ready to run into each other prior to Tyrone's demise. It was getting ready to be a damn good show. And how did these two great dogs come together? Through competing, being competitive. See? Them boys was not scared of Tyrone, and Tyrone wasn't scared of them boys. That's why those dogs was going to come together. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Tyrone didn't just pop up out of some hole in the yard and say, I want Charlie. Tyrone already had a great name. Charlie already had a great name. Them was 2 4-time winners, would have been a great one. But that's because we can talk about Charlie and Satan and all those dogs. BJ, they were just a line of those dogs. Same with Bakari. Look at all those great dogs. Lexus Coupe, all them dogs. You know, look at those lines. Those is competing. That's competition. But you see these names and these dogs keep popping up. How can you compare that to somebody, well, I got a good dog and, you know, and I never put his matches in and he was a good producer. Then show me one dog he produced. You know what I'm saying? That means we should at least find him out there somewhere in the world of the fast lane information database somewhere. If he was producing something, he had to be winning somewhere. Are you telling me these dogs was winning nowhere? They were just winning? And you mean to tell me that these dogs were so great that they could be better than the great dogs that we read about that's got these championships and all this other stuff, but never have no record of nothing but words that this dog is supposed to be great and a great producer? We can't find nothing. You can't tell me who he beat. You can't tell me who he produced and what he beat, because you ain't never gonna find yourself putting him in an area of the fast lane or even any lane pertaining to the competition of the dog game back there during those times. You know, you got a lot of great dog men that's good with dogs. But don't get yourself caught up in some bullshit by trying to compare that to great dog men who was matching dogs. There's a big difference to me, because they're the ones taking the big chance. They're literally out here matching their shit. Win or lose. And for those who complained about the Travelers, you know, it's not a pick and choose game. It really wasn't. I mean, for some guys it might have been, but that means them guys would have had to know who they was picking. You think guys, you know, with no week going into them, you think they was picking us because they thought they could beat us, or they was picking us because they knew that they would beat us, that they was getting the recognition? Why you think they picked us, knowing they going into us? That means they believe they got something that can whoop us. You know what I'm saying? That's what it means. And what do? We hook up. No, if they win, great. If they win, great. Guess what? And they got something to carry along. Now I can see them talking about, yeah, he was a good dog. Yeah, he be going hard. Yep. Yeah, that's verifiable. Did he beat anybody else after that? No. What? At least he was out there though. They gave you something to talk about, then nothing to talk about. He ain't beat shit. So you guys need to be listening to that shit at these different who were there places of people trying to put themselves somewhere they really don't belong, especially when history has already been written. So don't try to implant those notions that, you know, somewhere on that historical shelf that they're back there amongst the greats when they're not. the nobodies that want to be somebodies. If their story wasn't written back there, then guess what? It won't be. If there was anybody greater than any of these great dogs out here, like Jeep and anybody, Yellow and any other line out there that we don't know about, that we don't talk about, then I can guarantee you, probably in the area, that he was probably the best for that area. But just because he's the best for that area, you never ventured out into the big area where the history is being written to even put yourself in a position to become part of history. And if you didn't do it then, don't whine about it now. Because we don't know you. Because that's could be a lie. You could be one to inject yourself into a part of history where you don't belong. And an old dog man like me that's still lurking around, is still hanging around here enough to call you out on some of that shit, because there's not enough smart guys out there to put their foot down and say, stop it. I just don't like them when you're trying to put down guys to put the work in, the real work. Don't try to compare your work to mine, because you can't do that. You can't compare your work to mine. I wouldn't try to compare my work to yours. You see what I'm saying? Because guess what? I bet you I'm in a better position that you would try to compare your work to mine. But I know I wouldn't be trying to be comparing my work to yours, because I couldn't stand on the world that I was playing in. And that's a lot of things that I keep hearing from wannabes and used to be's, but still nobodies. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I speak on those things because we won't ever find it in history. So why are we hearing this shit, and why is it even worthy to talk about if it's not meant to try to boost your own, accolades by trying to step on somebody that you really had to use a step ladder to even mention their name? So sorry, there's a lot of you guys out there that wish you had great dogs that you want people to hear about now, but they weren't great dogs back then. Maybe for where you from or where you was at. But why don't they have those names of the great dogs that we know and we see and we recognize that we don't see your shit in these pedigrees unless you took the time to step out that hiding space and go out there and get to those dogs and inject yourself into that stuff to become part of history? Then guess what? We will never know about you. And you can't get mad. No, you can come in and put a whole bunch of dead dogs down, and there'll still be dead dogs that'll always be greater than your dogs. And it's not because you wasn't doing anything. You just wasn't doing them in the right place for those guys to sit there and say that they was doing them, but they was, there's a lot of great dogs out there better than this. Will you show me a few? I mean, I would like to know who these great dogs was going into, but all the great dogs that was competing back there in the day, and I mean, a lot of great dogs out there competing, but somewhere in the lineup, your shit never made it to not even one of them. Not even one of them. Come on, man. And I understand, I said the game must be really weak now. Can't nobody recognize that shit and call a person out on that shit, because I would. What is a great producer? A great producer is the ones we see up there on the registered merit list as ROM. Those are great producers. And give a damn about all that other shit y'all talking. That ROM list, that that POR list, those are great dogs that produce shit. You know, they carry a history. They carry a background. Now, if you feel like you got something better that should have been on that list, it's really not hard to do if you had produced some dogs that was beating dogs to the point that you should have been on a registered merit list. Your dog could be on the registered merit list, but how could you make a list such as that caliber with a dog? To know that you got a female, you got to have 3 champions in that female, and that you got to say you got the 3 champions. So we're going to call this bitch a good producer. But when we go looking into the 3 champions, we keep running into the same old shit. The only one seem to be coming up with all these champions is you. We going to give you that. But here's the funny thing about it. All the winning and all the champions, and we still drew our attention to you. You got our attention. But as the years went by, we can't do what you're doing. It don't take a rocket scientist to figure that shit out. If we're buying and we're breeding to your shit, and yet we can't get what you're doing, that's why we over here buying and breeding to you. Yet all these people out here that's doing this because you didn't attract us with your records and shit in your line of dogs. But guess what? We ain't getting what you getting. And we're talking about these is not newbies. These is real dog, man, trying to enhance what they got, liking what you doing. But it comes to a point of why we can't get the same results that we see you getting. Now you got us looking deeper into why we even, what's the problem here? Because it will make a person dig. It will make us look. Because guess what? Mayday was a great dog. And they said Mayday could produce. Well, Mayday definitely was a good dog. There's no doubt about that. But also Mayday could produce. And here's the thing. If Mayday could produce, then guess what? The dogs that he did produce that we was winning with, they were able to produce too. So it just didn't was going down just on Victor's yard. I'm using this Mayday as an example. This could be James Crenshaw. It could be Stone City. It could be Hardcore. It could be Strictly Business. It could be Triple M. It could be Shady Days. It could be Crane Valley. It doesn't matter who. If their shit is winning and we're breeding to their shit and we are getting the same thing that they was getting, you know what I'm saying? We're getting the dogs that they were getting. We're being able to win like them. Which route you think I'm going to take? The kennel that I tried with all the great success that they was having, but I can't seem to get anything like them. How many of us had to do that to realize that there must be some bullshit going on over there? Because we sure didn't have the success that they had, and for many fucking years still ain't got it. That is not nothing I would be comparing to dogs like Bozak or Redman, you know, or Yellow Buck or Grand Champion Buck on Nico. You can't compare none of that shit that was you claiming over there is all that. You can't. It may be winners, but again, it draws the attention of, do we got to dig in and investigate that far? We shouldn't even have to go that far. It shouldn't even matter to us. You got our attention to try it. Once we lose that, then, we don't need to check your yard. That's your yard. We know whatever's coming off your yard, we can't win with it. Only one seem to be able to win with it is you. Why we don't give a fuck how y'all got it, because evidently it ain't right if we can't win with it. Can't be. So and these are points that I hear in a lot of breeders. I hear that shit in a lot of now. These are the type of conversations that, I hear the shit, but I don't hear nobody saying what I'm saying. Well, maybe because I'm the one that's on a different level than everybody else that's hearing this shit. Maybe it's not hitting my ears right because I am the real. Well, I would have to give myself credit for being more realer than them. If they can't, ain't nobody around them, nobody around to pick up what I'm picking up. And I'm pretty sure the people that I'm around got plenty of dogs that they didn't have that became great dogs that I done bred to and got a couple good ones out of them my damn self. There's a couple people that say we had good dogs. Guess what? They can do the same thing that we did. So there's no question that Going Hard has some good dogs because people have been able to take those very same dogs and do the exact same thing that we done with them. And damn, you tell you the exact same things that we say about the dogs that we had that we was winning with. They're ass-in dogs, they got a lot of mouth and they're rough as fuck. Now that's somebody else talking about my shit. That's their shit now. Generations moving on like that. There's a couple generations of dogs out there doing that. I told you, you're going to catch them on the RM list. I've said it several times where everybody want to close their eyes to that list. I'm trying to keep your eyes focused on that list because that list is the history that I continue to prove over and over and over and over. When it boils down to that list, how important that list is to the history and the future of this game. I continue saying it over and over. And how many people are really catching on? How many people are really listening and say, I got it, twin? Y'all breed the papers. I want to breed to somebody that's got the shit right there on their yard and got the attributes of being an ROM right then at the time that I'm breeding to him. He can pick up his ROM, but they ain't on his yard. These winners aren't on his yard. These winners is out there winning. See, that's how a lot of great dogs became great. I don't hear enough of this type of conversation. I don't hear enough of this type of conversation to put in check something that's becoming more often heard. Like, this is the new way that nobody's become somebody. Talk about how good their shit was and dare be foolish enough to try to compare it to some shit that's been long gone and over. Yet trying to tap into comparison of something that you can't touch. And I guess this game is so young and naive that nobody know enough to call them on it. But it hits my ear and it sends a buzz through my ear. Maybe it's for, everybody has a right. But I do too. And I have a right. If I'm going to listen to it, I can speak on it. No, I mean, and it's not no one particular person. I mean, you see it on Facebook. You see it in podcasts. You see it everywhere you turn. You see this shit. And then as soon as somebody question, they worried about, you either being the police or they're trying to make it that way so they don't have to answer the question because they really don't have a real answer for you because the shit was all trash anyway. See, I don't mind keeping it real because I expose myself and open myself up for all battles. It's called competing. I came there that somebody sit back and say that they had better dogs in Stone City when you could never. When you get your yard and let's see, because I know Stone City. There's not too many of them I don't know. I mean I can't even give you an easy one to say that you was better than. And I mean I can't because anybody who was truly out there competing, truly competing. You know what I'm saying? Is they do respect, especially if they have something on the table that we can see and know about, yet we can't see and know about shit you saying, but your comment based on that you feel like you got shit that's going on bigger and better than us and we supposed to be going to you. I mean, come on. Only a fool, a naive fool, would be listening to some shit like that and believe it and flock to it because then you, like the kids doing, following the Pied Piper. The song caught the kids and the kids couldn't help themselves. They had to follow to nowhere. Some of y'all might not like hearing what you're saying. Some of y'all definitely saying, yeah, that nigga being real. He's being truthful. I'm just keeping it real. No, I didn't get into dog fighting and get into the game to be famous. I got into the dog game and wanted to have dogs, man, because I wanted to be like the Kennels that I saw, that I admired, and I loved what I saw. There was nothing wrong with me wanting to be hardcore. There was nothing wrong with me wanting to be Triple M one day. There was nothing wrong with me to be the Abrahams. There was nothing wrong with me wanting to be like McNasty. There was nothing wrong with me wanting to be like none of those great Kennels. Mama, I wanted to be like all them. You know what they had that I didn't? But I wanted it and I got it sooner or later. First thing was to be able to win. Not just one, but to have a kennel. A winning kennel. That means what I'm doing over here on this yard, I'm out here competing like those guys are. That's what I wanted. Let me feed a yard like they got. I want to feed a yard like they yards. And what's wrong with that? Am I a biter? How can I be a biter and I'm a competitor? I'm a competitor. I'm competing just like them. I just want to compete and win like them. I want to be able to produce like them. And I told y'all exactly. Didn't beat around the bush, hide it, keep it a secret, or nothing. You hear me clearly tell you that I could go and get their shit and do exactly what they was doing and won just like they was doing. Now you gonna try to get some shit across to me that I got a whole yard of shit over there. They looking like hardcore. They looking like Stone City. But the only ones winning with that shit is them. Only ones can win with the shit is them. That is nothing like what I wanted. Just imagine. Imagine me going and just trying to be like them. Yet everything I'm trying to do like them, I'm getting they lines, they yard, they dogs. I'm breeding to they shit. Yeah, I can't come home and get something like that. That's like me saying, me breeding the Mayday and not getting shit. How many times you gonna get me to breed the Mayday and I'm getting shit? How am I gonna be breeding the Stone City, getting Stone City dogs, and these dogs that I'm getting can't do the shit the Stone City is being known for and famous for? Stone City is not the only ones who has produced great dogs. You know, there's people out here that we have Stone City blood by way of our dogs. By way of our dogs. Showing you it wasn't just Stone City. They had to have a real deal because I'm able to do what they was doing with that blood. If I'm able to do what you doing, then I'm going to have more belief in your shit than have belief in my shit. But if your shit can't do for me like it's doing for you, and it's evident that you look like them, but are you really like them? Is what made me ask these questions. You look like them, but as time goes by, I'm questioning. You ain't them. Because what I can do with they shit, I can't do with yours. And as a matter of fact, there's a whole lot of us out here that can't do it like you with yours. Not what you doing. You see what I'm saying, people? So, you know, I think I say this because I see it happening. I see these internet arguments. I see these Facebook arguments. I see these podcast arguments. I see all this shit. And yet I never see nobody talking like me. I never hear anybody saying what I'm saying tonight. If they were saying what I'm saying tonight, you're either going to be pissing some people off, but you're going to have more of a leg to stand on because you're going to be making just as much sense as I am making sense to y'all telling you what I'm telling you now. Because you don't hear what I'm saying every day. You don't hear what I'm saying every time somebody starts talking out the side of their neck like that. Because I caused it, you know, and I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying there's a difference between a somebody and somebody who want to be a somebody. You could be somebody, but on which level? You can't go injecting your level into my level, and you don't belong there. Because then I'm gonna look next to you and wonder why you standing there. What? You don't expect me to not say something? You standing next to me, acting like me, but you know you ain't supposed to be standing there. I'm gonna say something. You better go and scoot on back down there where you was. Cause I don't want to see you stand up here and get embarrassed. Cause that's exactly what will happen, or you'll get mad and upset. It's gonna be one or the other because you know you don't got no business up here. And if I'm making sense to you, you know what I'm saying. You know, I ain't putting nobody down. I'm just keeping it real. For those who really don't know, I'm bringing you some game. I'm spitting real game to you because there's a lot of people out there. I still hear people up there jocking on Chico Lopez. Even after I done told him all these great goddamn dogs that Chico had, yet none of them motherfuckers win in the United States, and y'all still hollering Chico Lopez. I can't help you. I can't help you. I can't help you when I tell you Evolution taught Chico. Evolution and Chico played the same game all the way to the point that they fell out on each other and started telling on each other. But it's the same story. But one thing for damn sure. We can talk about Evolution dogs like Macho Buck. We can talk about great dogs like him. We can talk about there's a few other ones that Evolution had. But you got to look at it like this again. Name them. That's all I'm saying. When you start saying Stone Evolution, we're talking about Mayday dogs and Stone City dogs. Mayday dogs and Stone City dogs. Did Evolution's dogs do anything like Mayday dogs? Chico Lopez went way over to Mexico for his dogs to do like Mayday and Stone City dogs. Mexico. Only person who can tell the story is him. We can't say a damn thing about none of that shit happening over here. Even if we gave Macho Buck his full rightful respect of a grand champion. Truly. He still ain't doing what Stone City and Southern Kennels did with the same blood. He still didn't ever do it. I got my all-wims out there shit. I got my champion out there shit. And so did a whole bunch of other people after me. So I know I was fucking with the real shit. Y'all catching my point? I know I was fucking with the right shit. I knew it because my shit was doing what they shit was doing. Evolution could not do what Stone City and Southern Kennels was doing with those very same dogs. They could not do it. They sold a lot of dogs. Chico Lopez sold a lot of dogs with his overseas bullshit. That not a one of them dogs, not a one, did anything here. Except for Macho Buck. And again, I say again, Macho Buck. Because he's the only one we really can stand on. I know about Hannah and all the rest of it, but no. We're talking about Macho Buck. Because he was really the only one that we can bring up. And even then, there's, you know that little, what's the Joker's sign? The question mark. You see what I'm saying? What's the Joker sign on Batman? The question mark. That's what I see. Because no, they could not do what we did. Remember my first Stone City breeding, I got Buck Rogers and Bebe, who was a registered mare. Buck Rogers produced winners, and so did Bebe. Bebe a registered mare. I mean, more in contrast with what Stone City and Southern Kennels was doing with their line of dogs than what hardcore, what Evolution did when he took Mayday and bred right to Yellow Buck's Litter Mate's sister. You can't get purer than that right there. That more pure than mine still could not do what my shit done. Go do your homework. So stop eating what you think is the hype, because it's not. Pay closer attention to what I'm telling you and then go look and see for yourself. Remember, things that I say, I can prove. I don't say nothing that I can't bring a receipt to. And y'all know how I am. You do not want me diving in and digging in. There's a lot of shit that I say because I know the great dog man. I know the real dog man. I know the competitors. Even if I don't know you, guess what? If you was competing, there's somebody out there that I know that know you. I never knew J-Bo. But J-Bo had dogs on his yard up or going hard dog long before he knew me. But J-Bo knew people I knew. He knew boot camp. He knew Lockdown Rudy. He ran down and ran with the guys. I see J-Bo in the books. But you don't see him waving no flag. I'm over here. Hey, I used to do it too. No, he was just quiet, laid back, funny. That man put in work. And to this day, he's still humble. He's still humble. He ain't like me. You see me, I call everybody out. And why am I calling you out? Because I'm only calling out those who don't belong. When you're out of place, it's like playing a chess game. You know how the knight supposed to go this and do this? Well, see, if you take him and take him that way right there, you're cheating, right? Okay, so let's stick to the game and let's keep it fair. It's supposed to move your knight a certain way. Move your pieces right so the game can stay fair. Don't go moving it the way you want it to move just so you can try to win or manipulate the way the game is being played. Whether you're trying to help yourself or maybe you might feel like you're doing something right. It still doesn't matter. It's the perception of what you're doing. It's what brings on the question. And a lot of these guys, y'all guys don't have enough knowledge to see it when it's coming. And I'm just one of them guys that ain't sat down all the way yet. And I will speak up because, like I said, it's very few people that could probably have a debate with me. Even some of the old great ones would tell you, man, I didn't get around as much as Twin did. Okay, because he got around. And yet these are still great, good dog men. But dogs that they heard about, I probably didn't see. Dogs that they know about, I probably didn't see. Dogs that we all know about are here. The journal played a big part in that really helping us make it happen or helping us getting a chance to see it happen. Remember, the journal comes out damn near, like it was coming out every, 8 weeks? And just think about it, y'all. If the journal was coming out, then what was done was already done. So what was reported, it was already reported. Now, one time if I ever seen anything in the journal was talking about, hey, grand champion Mayday going in the Tance Cody before it happened. I never heard Roadblock going into Grim Reaper. That's Joey going into Waldo for his grand championship. You never heard that in advance. You never heard none of these great matches in advance was going to go down. In advance. So it was always the after news. So when it came up in the journal, we didn't know when, where, and how. It's just there. If you got a familiar enough dog like that right there, like Joey, how did Joey end up from Saginaw all the way down to Texas to go into Texas? You see what I'm saying? How you think that came about? How would these dogs even know each other if they wasn't in that part of the circuit? Texas was a fast lane dog. But I always say again, you have fast lane kennels out there that, what do we call those fast lanes? I would say this, to be honest and be truthful, I would have them as being gamblers. They were gamblers. A fast lane kennel that has some good dogs, he's got good dogs. He has a fan club. So with that fan club, you're going to have a backing. And with that backing is going to bring you what are you saying? Am I talking too loud?
No, you're fine. You're fine. I was just saying your hands.
I guess my hands aggravating y'all. I'm doing Bruce Lee and shit right now. I'm doing yeah, but you know what I'm saying. Like I was saying, a lot of them, you look at it for what it is. Now, in today's world, I can't speak on it. I ain't even like coming up this far. I like staying way back there in the back. Because when I start moving forward, I'm gonna tell you, no times, no dates, no places, but I can put it like this. I can tell you this much. I've seen champions lose. I know 3 dog of the years didn't lost after they got dog of the year. You see what I'm saying? I know 3 dog of the years that lost after they got dog of the year. So it's not impossible. You know what I'm saying? And when you go out there and you play in that type of world, you better be expecting to lose and hope that you don't. Expect to lose, but hope that you don't. Put your work in, do the best you can, and let the dog bring you the answer. Because in the end, that's where it comes from. If you did not do your job, don't expect your dog to cover your mistakes. You know, because the dog got enough work to do. And he needs you to give him 100% of everything he needs for him to give you 100%. If you ain't gave him 100%, don't expect him to give you 100%. I wouldn't care how great and how fancy dancer and all that shit is. If you bring a raggedy dog in, he could be the greatest dog in the world. Bring the right dog in there. There's only one reason why they got another dog in there with him, because they feel like they can beat you. And anybody, I don't give a damn how big your name is. Nobody out here is anybody scared of. I didn't see it back then, and I don't think in this game of that in this sport of dogs back then, and this goes for the dwellers too. Nobody's scared of nobody in this game unless you just not on the level to compete with these type of people. Because them sharks, they're not scared of nobody. There's somebody out there for every great dog to believe they got the greatest dog in the world. Somebody might have a great dog and just don't have the money to challenge the greatest dog. But somewhere around there on your climb, if you are anybody of anybody in your climb, if you can put a fan club, don't worry about it. By the time you get to that plateau, you'll have a fan club too. You'll have some people to believe what you believe. I believe I can get him. And that's what made history. That's what made the game. Now, when it comes to these shows like this right here, like our show, no, I'm telling you. I mean, it's not too much more that I can say or do. But one thing I'm gonna always do, I'm gonna keep me. I'm not gonna change me for a show. I'm gonna always tell you what I know, whether you like it or not. I'm gonna always check on anything. Hey, y'all, and nobody blocking me. Well, I can't come to y'all show. So if I come to y'all show, you know what I'm saying? And I don't get a chance to do a whole lot of live. I mean, because a lot of these times I wish I would catch a show. I'm just not even out here really in this. So I do my Tuesdays and Friday shows, you know? And when I'm out here taking care of my own dogs, I like putting up some of y'all shows and just, you know, doing my job and doing my work and listening. But it's getting to the point now, you know, I don't even like listening. You know, because of so many things, you know, and it gives me things to say. You know, I look for replies. I look for people to step up and you know, if is there anybody out there that, you know, that means there's nobody out there, nobody out there that has to, you know, that I have to say what I'm saying because I'm not hearing from nobody else. You see what I'm saying? That really makes me really hate what I'm hearing. It really makes me question, why am I even doing this? I mean, I've done enough of these. Shit, Mike will tell you he down there dragging me in here now. You know, I really don't get a chance to watch shows. Because just really, you know, I really don't want to, but lately, you know, I check in on my nephew, PBK, because he is a young man who Look, I train dogs. In 1982, I got pictures of me training dogs. You know, and this was long before I got into pit bulls. So anybody that try to talk shit about a dog trainer getting into the pit bull game, next time you say that, think about a person like me. Because I don't think you could get into an argument or try to put me down about me and my mountain walls and me and my pit bulls. Because the first thing that we would have to establish for this conversation would begin is you would have to have something to put on the table so I can strap through it. Like I'm giving you a chance to strap through mine. See, one thing I'm not giving up. I'm not letting nobody put me on a plate and they ain't got shit for me to put on mine. You know, we can't even get that far because I'm giving you something to talk about, but you're nothing for me to talk about. So why would I want to have a conversation with you when you got nothing for me to talk about? Not even in comparison. Nothing. So, you know, I would love to see more of that. More of that. We get more of that, then I guarantee we can stop a lot of this bickering and shit where I can't really enjoy the substance of the shows that I do want to watch. You know, everybody can't be great. You know what I'm saying? Everybody can't be great. And I think, you know, like I said about this show here, you know, I don't say too much more. I don't see much more to say outside the fact that I like sticking around to not take content and make content out of content, but to set the record straight on content. You know, the content that I'm putting in is only the true content, okay? True content that everything is right up to this point right here. This is the part that you got wrong. Now, not to put you down, but to get you right. You know, a lot of guys don't know Roadblock. But if you knew Roadblock, I would expect you to be a dog man. If you knew hardcore, I would expect you to be a dog man if you know one. It's just how many of them can you put in my ear to know that I know you've been around? You're not like Schoolboy. You're not like Bakari. You're not like Fat Bill. You know what I'm saying? You're not like Roster Man. Mama, you know the numbers and the names that I can run through there. These are all guys that match dogs. These are all of my friends. All my friends have had great dogs. And it's not like I'm saying it come out of my mouth and you can't go verify it. You ought to know everybody I'm talking about if you are a competitor in the world of dogfighting. Back then. And if you've given it up, still, the names in the game didn't change. If anything, it was sealed. You know what I'm saying? And we don't have enough of that. We have too much of trying to kick the Bible out there. And I call the journal the Dog Game Bible because it carries the history. You all guys wouldn't know nothing about Maurice Carver. You wouldn't know nothing about none of these great kennels. The only information you guys would have ever had without the journal and Fat Bill and them would have been Richard Stratton. And ain't y'all a joke? Because really that would be the only true information that y'all would have had relating to the American Pit Bull Terrier. So thank God for the journal and all those other old books from back in the day that got a little bit more in depth, that was able to teach young guys like myself when I was young. And I'm right there in South Carolina. I'm right there in North Carolina and didn't have nothing to do with the journal until I got back up north. Not even Sheriff Powell hit me to the Sporting Dog Journal. not Atlas, not Tony Wade. I mean, not nobody in the Carolinas. So I didn't get hip to the journal until I got back up into the city. And once I met Pope, remember Pope was the Buckeye man. He was already writing in the journal. And that's how I caught up with the journal. That's how I learned my pedigrees. God rest my friend in peace. But, I was fortunate. And I've always been a pretty keen person as far as picking up on shit. And once I got the experience of seeing what it was really like, thinking I used to think that we had some badass dogs coming out of the Carolinas. Which to this day I still give them credit. But, through the growth, as me getting better and through the growth, me understanding the game more because I was getting more great dog men around me, seeing what they were having that made me better. It's a growing process. But I wasn't sitting in one spot absorbing. I was moving around and getting it in. When you're getting it in, that means you're getting in the work. You're not just feeding dogs and breeding dogs and selling dogs. No. I was in a full operation, calling, raising, testing, competing, then breeding. And they always say, to be great, you gotta be with the great. And you can't. You know what I'm saying? Most legendary guys always leave a legendary person behind to carry it on. Just look at the legacy. Y'all guys think I'm a legend, but I'm telling you guys, look at all those guys that I wanted to be like. Every one of them guys is legendary, so it's not hard to say if I followed the lead, and to hear all them to know, be proud. And to say, I remember this when Twin did this, or I remember telling Twin that, and I remember telling Twin, I got my eye on you. I remember all those little things. So I know I have to give my thanks, and I always shout out to my thanks for everybody that had me in, and saying everybody has something to do with it. You know what I'm saying? So that's how my history was written. I didn't come in here with some Lone Star story with nothing behind me but me and my mouth. Bragging about my work. You shouldn't have to open your mouth about your work. We should see your work. And if your work is a good producing job, then we should still see your work. And nobody, especially over here on this horizon, nobody over here stupid. You know what I'm saying? Nobody. So, I pick up things that most guys, not saying that you're stupid. How can you be stupid about some things you just don't know? So why would I think you're stupid when there's some things you just don't know? But if I say this to you, and you go look, trying to be smart, and go see for yourself to get smart, you'll come back talking like I'm talking, because now you know. And I don't say these things to anybody out there in particular. I say this to everybody out there. The ones that's doing it and the ones that's sucking it in. That's why I always say I don't like to talk about the now or the future. Let me ride on the past, because it's a dying past. It's dying when the nobodies want to step on your grave. When you got the nobodies that's trying to stand on your shoulder and using a ladder to get there. not getting everybody to work, but getting everybody just stepping on you. You know, same thing with the guys that's got the lines of the great dogs and just trying to make a profit out of it by what's the use of you having and trying to sell it if you can't do what it did? Why can't you do what it did and then sell it? Give us something to work for that shows me that your shit is like that shit. You know, like so many done with our shit. You know, it's good to see that I took a hardcore dog, that I took a Stone City dog, that I took a Mayday dog on top of my own shit, like we did with Amber. Remember Amber? Never forget Amber, going hard as Amber. You know, look at her breeding in itself. But to be able to take that, man, and do what we've done, and many times, in many ways, by directions of the experiences we was having with the great dog man that we were running around with, and had the opportunity to see in the great dogs that we saw. It's like there was just tuning my eyes into what greatness looks like, so I could go home and look at my shit and see where greatness looks like many other guys that took our dogs and had the opportunity to sit there and say, hey, what greatness looked like. I was able to do what Twin did. Even Twin said he was able to do what they did. See, that's how it's supposed to work. But you don't have. But when you're doing it all on Facebook, like you got a point to prove, with nothing to stand on that point, nothing but your mouth. You could be the best arguer, debater in the world by arguing, but the problem is the arguing part. It doesn't answer the questions of the purpose of the debate. You're so busy arguing and fighting and fussing that you're not giving us the answers to the main question that was asked. It's like you are using the argument as a way to, slide away from the main question that can expose you so easily. What have you done? That's where I would stop at. I'm not moving forward, not another step, until I see what you've done. Let's do a show on you. You can't. So, I think that was one of the biggest things that, because I have a lot of guys. We be talking about pedigrees, and I'm trying to point out certain things, and now I'm getting close to my end of my run. Now you see me dealing with more production than dogs fighting. You hear me talking about pointing out the key pieces, the major pieces. I'm getting a little in depth. Look at the dogs and the way they're bred. Look at this. Check this out. Go do this. If y'all go through some of these videos and start really looking at what I'm pointing out, you will see that formula has a big circle of many of those formulas in all kind of different ways. But the same thing you see that's working still swirls around within that main nucleus. You're the nucleus inside a big circle. And in that one big circle, there's many different pieces and cells to that circle. But it's those little mini pieces that make that circle great. It wasn't just one person. It wasn't just one dog. And that's real important. And you can sit there and watch how they're doing it. You seeing what's working and how it worked. With all the thousands of dogs out there, You don't even have to work that hard. You just got to know what you're looking for and the right dogs. And that's back in my time. As you know, when I get sit in this chair where I'm at, y'all already know where I'm sitting at. I'm sitting right back here in the back. I ain't got to talk about y'all up there in the front. You know, I was going to throw up some pedigrees tonight, but today is Friday. You know, it was this, you know, we had some bad storms and stuff here. But I was thinking, you know, today I kept thinking about, you know, I'm a dog trainer. Like I said, I told you I was training dogs before I became a dog man. So that means my understanding to dogs is, you know, and if you have not seen any of my training, you know, there's snippets all in our little library or whatever this channel is, and you'll see them with chaos. But I have pictures of before I even got into the pit bulls that I had Apollo, Kojak, Achilles, and some badass Dobermans. You know, I've always had guard dogs. I've told y'all that. So I think as a dog trainer, I feel nephew. Now he might not never have been up in that plateau level, but I can tell you this much: he was around enough to know that, you know, a lot of people, if you don't know what you're talking about, he'll eat you up, because that's one thing for damn sure. You know, even though he don't know as much as the higher levels of being out there, because he doesn't hide from that fact. But he's been in there enough to know what he's talking about. Now, I don't know if he's on the right wagon. The very thing that, you know, when he first met me, we fought out about, you know, was him not liking what I said about walking on kennels. You know, he wants to defend walking on kennels. And he has every right to defend them. That's up to him. But don't defend them to somebody who, you know, like me. You may know them, but I know the game. And what I'm speaking on is not coming through no animosity or no shit like that. I speak the truth. You know, and I'm never going to change my attitude about what I said about them. And you know, I'm not looking for nobody to, you know, like I'm trying to put them down. I'm just giving you the facts. You know, you can ride on what you do on your own. That's it. I'm not trying to make no trouble like that. But, you know, maybe you need to stop and take a minute and look a little closer yourself. Maybe outside of what was around you, that was best around. But what was going on around me made me look at it at a broad view. And I'm definitely wanting to be able to speak on it, because even when I spoke on it to my nephew back then, he got to understand I'm bred to the shit. You know, and look at the dogs that I bred to. So you know I must have thought something of that by doing my homework that had me enough to breed the very same bitch that produced Baby Buck Rogers and all these other dogs. It's the same bitch that I bred to walk him on. Not being mean about it. But it's not like we didn't have the right bitch, because the bitch produced for everybody but him. And maybe because it didn't cross up or link up. But to me, I seen the same things that he probably sees. It's just that we didn't get nothing. And I can understand why a lot of us didn't get shit, because it's a going trend. I could pull up a pedigree of one of them dogs that came right off our shit, that came right off of Lil John and our shit, that a guy had, that it quit on him, and then he sold it to another guy, and it quit on them. So he basically ripped them off. He bought the dog from us as a puppy. But evidently the dog must have quit on him. And what he do? He turned around and sold the dog for him to quit on somebody else. Never heard no shit like that about a going hard dog except for that one. I probably would have never heard nothing else about that one unless the guy had never resold the dog after it quit. So, not saying nothing bad about the line because I can also sit right there and show you a little mate sister that produced one. Yeah. The person that had her. He thinks she was the nicest bitch in the world. But you won't see her amongst the great ones that did come off our yard. She never reached that plateau. But she did come out of sassy, so it's not like they could all be dead when you're talking about a dog that seems to produce in everything that she throws. It just got to put the right stuff with her. You know, we say the same thing about our going hard dogs. You know, we can say Stone City, we can say Mayday, we can say Hardcore, we can say all these names, we can say Supernet, we can say all those people, but there's a trait in our line of dogs that we see what sets going hard dogs different than these other great dogs. Well, everybody, it just didn't take it to come from me. It came from years of results. Do you notice that most of these dogs, when they do speak on them, and these are champions and winners, they talking about that stifle style, how they go in there and wreck one up in the stifle, devastating destroyers in the back end, through the movement. See, we've been able, remember, we spoke on this before everybody else had a chance to speak on it. But for those who've seen our dogs go, and seen enough of those dogs to know that their dog is going in, when they hit that ass in, it's over. Watch. So, but there's other eyeballs to say that. So even when they go looking, like my proteges, and they went out there, they could say the same thing, and they knew they was on the right track. They knew they was on the right track when they seen the very same characteristics that they saw coming off our yard for them to even want to deal with those type of dogs that we had. And like I said, like I followed these guys, those young guys. They're older now. They didn't put their time in. They followed me. And I'm pretty sure they got guys following them. We got a whole generational trail that I can speak on going out the door of the guys who was able to take our dogs and win with them. Not just breed them and live off to what we did, but bred them, won, put accolades on them, on the dogs in themselves. To prove my point, they could be able to do what we did, and we was able to do what they did. Then now we know we fucking with a good line of dogs. Same thing I said about hardcore being able to take a hardcore dog doing what we did. Same thing about Stone City. Same thing about Mayday. Same thing about Twisted, who's off of Mayday. Same thing about Yellow. Same thing about Grand Champion Buck. Same thing about the Super Kennels dog. If you're paying attention, if you're doing your research, you will see there's a whole bunch of great dogs. They're going to fall in a certain line, a certain category. And through all the years and generations and genetics, win and lose, you're going to notice that formula. And it's going to have different names. But what you're going to notice in that formula are going to be all the same results. And when you pick those results up, then you'll know how to breed it. And you won't be doing nothing new. You'll just continue on the formula that has been working all this time. And I guess I'm going to leave y'all with that. I think today was more of a conversational thing for me. You know, because, you know, I can't show y'all in pedigree. I did the last show pointing out pedigrees. And I don't feel like y'all took true importance because I didn't get a comment. I didn't get nobody get me. I mean, I got a thank you from Courtney because Courtney understood. But I didn't get a question. I didn't get a nothing. And what I tried to point out the last show. So the day I was thinking about it, and the day I was thinking, you know, because I spoke on it to my brother, that I wasn't doing nothing, and I was just sitting around watching the shows, and was telling him, man, you know, why I'm really ready to quit this shit because what's left out there, I don't even want to be a part of that. You know, I had a chance to just sit down and listen. I told him, and I asked him, man, why am I still doing this shit? Because I noticed something while I was watching these shows. Y'all don't know as much as the people that's trying to tell y'all something. If they don't know, and y'all don't even have enough to even tell them, or y'all scared to tell them, or y'all don't know either, to let a story that goes that just clearly not being told completely. It sounded like a greenhorn when you're telling it. That nobody even can give a man help. After even most of y'all I saw in that room was on this show. I don't want to be a clown in y'all circus. Okay.
Yeah. Let me get in here. I need to do this part first. Hold on, fellas. Before we get
to you, better read your shit, man, because you don't know what they're saying over there.
Oh, I've been reading. I have my
Everybody,
phone.
we ain't got nobody throwing rocks at me, right?
No, everything's still straight. I'm not going to do the thumbs up yet because I got to say my piece on what he was saying. You know, the last couple shows, you know, he been trying to get this thing across because, like I did tell you, I'm winding down, but we're trying to sum this up by giving a solid foundation to stand on with proof. Something that you can just actually, if you stop and really pay attention, you know, to the information that's out there. Now, I don't know, I don't have no control of what everybody else do and how they do that. So trust me, I'm speaking from what our intentions are when we have these conversations, because these conversations for us is we can only try to show them something that everybody else ain't. We have the information to get out there and the right people catch on. We still gonna end up having some good bulldogs, regardless of they have made it all this time. It won't be, I don't think it'll ever be the way it was. It's never should, it's impossible. Because remember, we wasn't getting in the kind of trouble that you can get in today. So we're not trying to get you to do what we did. But what we are trying to do is let's keep the facts and the reality of what an American goddamn pit bull terrier really is supposed to be. So if we're trying to maintain something, the least you can do is do the things that's going to show what actually made the American pit bull terrier. And I think in the future, you're going to have to build on just knowing that and finding them other things that, like the running up a wall. Hey, in order to get into the running up a wall, you would have to first get the first great dog that's running up the wall, hope and pray that you take the right dog to it, whether it be male or female, and just hope that that trait is something that can be passed on. So when that competition, you get enough of them out there, then that will be competition. See, that's a whole new different type of competition. If you want to breed a dog for a body, and you like that certain body, you know, you're going to go breed something that's got that body and hope that you bring the right shit that's going to bring that trait back with it to now you just implemented body into your shit. How will you know? You know what you seen and what you was expecting when you did it. And if you don't see it when you get it, then get rid of it. That didn't work.
Mm-hmm. Try to hold on
Don't try to hold on something that ain't that's just a waste of time. See, getting y'all understand, the basic concept of doing it the right way with the right frame of mind. How do you know? Because we got it from these people. We did what these people did, and we had a couple people who interpreted all the different ways to do the things, and we took a bit of all of that. And I tell y'all that all the time. We took a bit something from everybody. Because just as much as we are stuck in our ways, the way we do things now, each one of them people believed in what they were doing in their own special way. You had to take pieces from each one and implement it to make it yours, like we made it ours. Like our proteges made it theirs. Like my man, the other people who got the dogs, they took the same attitude and made it theirs. Because they had to still put in the same work to get the same damn results that we was doing any fucking way. Or how would we get the same results? Who you gonna blame it on? We were lucky enough that we had the right people doing the right thing.
So we were fucking with the right dog.
So you know damn well we had to been fucking with the right dog. That's what I've been saying. I mean, come on. That ain't bragging. That's just actually telling people, look, this is how we did it. This is exactly how it worked. Here's some history and receipts to go with it. And we wasn't the only ones. So if y'all can find what everybody else is doing, these videos supposed to do that. The receipts and the conversations and the history that we can go all the way back to Tudor, so you can understand as we move forward. Do you see something that's in common that we bring from way back there? All this good shit gonna have something in common. Your job is to get it, nurture it, and make sure the least it can do. At least do what the motherfucker's supposed to do based on what I know about that situation, what made me do it. And if it ain't there, it ain't there. You missed.
You missed.
No need to keep peeing a bunch of bullshit when the thing is breed for greatness. Greatness is whatever you make it when it comes to these dogs. It is always going to be more than just putting papers together. The American Pit Bull Terrier was not created under them circumstances. Before there was a paper, there was still the damn dog. Dog had a purpose. And traits and everything. For it to be an American Pit Bull Terrier, it's going to be that dog if it's about anything. Can't help it. We ain't breeding Rottweilers, German Shepherds. We breeding American Pit Bull Terriers. If that American Pit Bull Terrier ain't there, it ain't American Pit Bull Terrier.
It ain't gonna be one. It's a dog.
It's a dog.
Get your dog.
Get your dog, man. Get your dog.
You don't pat that word pit around.
Throwing that pit around, making the bully people have to back up off that shit. Them XLs. No, stop calling them motherfuckers pit bulls. Because they ain't.
You got a bully.
You got a bully.
You don't take that pit out the name.
No,
you ain't got no pit in it nowhere.
It's not fair. So yeah, we speak on shit like that because the reality of it is, this is the American Pit Bull Terrier community. We're going to be speaking about dogs, the betterment of the dog, the betterment of the dog owner, because this is the only way that you're going to preserve the American Pit Bull Terrier from extinction. So yeah, we're always going to be on live by the disclaimer. But in the process of living by the disclaimer, you still have to be able to create the American Pit Bull Terrier, to at least be able to show the traits and the things that they can do. Guard dogging, yeah, they got some pretty, how we feel about guard dogs. We got guard dogs for guard dogs. We still feel like, not they can't be trained, but they just ain't the ones for the serious type of work we be talking about. A real bulldog get on your ass. I ain't looking to do nothing but get a breaking stick to get him off. I ain't trying to call him off of shit. You know what I mean? I'm going to have him mad as hell because I broke his ass off. Because, that's the guard dog. Our guard dogs, we can call them off. You know what I mean? I would want to be able to call them off. but not my American Pit Bull Terrier.
Right. Don't even seem right.
It don't even seem right. You know, so that's our disagreement when we talk about training them. You know, but you have to do some type of training them because if they're a real deal, they're gonna have to take that aggression, that prey aggression out on something and somebody. Me preferably, I like to keep it on the squirrels and things like that, and train them to keep their minds off the human being. You know, I'm safer that way. You know, that's why they can be your best friends. But they're going to always be an American Pit Bull Terrier back in even that mutt that's going to slip up one day. I never seen him act like that before. Yes, you did. You just wasn't paying attention. You know, them type of situations. So trying to keep this game simple and the traits. The reason I throw traits in there because traits is something that we carry as human beings and anything. It's a guideline about things that happen. Even though we can talk about dog traits and how they act, we have that same trait based on kennels and how they did. You know, they had the trait of producing good dogs over years. You know, that's a good trait when I'm looking at a kennel. What kind of dogs they running? I can tell. Because they're going to tell me. I'm going to see for myself. You know, what are they doing to be able to do that? You answer all them questions and you feel like everything carrying a check. Why wouldn't you want some of that shit on your yard? But the knowledge of the game is supposed to prevent that. That's all we're saying. We ain't out here to be beating up on nobody, but we out here to keep it real, and you need to make sure that, you know, if you don't know, you just don't know.
Don't act like it.
Don't act like you know. Because that makes it even worse because...
some of us do know.
Yeah. And then it's surprising that a whole lot that don't know because ain't nobody said nothing.
Right. We know and then nobody else know.
I mean, there's people who actually say things in our Shark Tank, but I know, you know, I know my Shark Tank. We want answers. We know we can reach out there to them. They gonna give it. We don't know something certain. These chats and these Shark Tanks, you know, they have people who can jump in there and do it. But them same ones, sometimes I notice they just there for the ride because, yeah, I mean, y'all know, ain't nobody saying nothing. Mm-hmm. You know, and maybe it's not about the controversial part. To me, controversy is only based off two people disagreeing and somebody going to have to come out, either be a liar or you just a loser. Because now the one, you know, the loser always the one who just talking but ain't got nothing to stand on. And we stand on that because to me, if you stand on what you believe in and you got receipts, it's not too much you need to say. Let the work speak for itself. And if that makes you mad, then we didn't have no business having a conversation because that deflects us for why this conversation even started. So that's not the game that I'm trying to be a part of. It's a learning process. It's all just all in fun, but then giving knowledge to help people do what they got to do. Because this is the American Pit Bull Terrier community, and over here we live in a yesteryear. We back on the bus. You know what I'm saying? So reality for us is still the same thing now that it was when we first started this. We're never gonna let y'all forget our past as far as all them guys back there. Don't know Roadblock, Banner Boys, you don't know none of these stones, you don't know none of these people. And if we don't talk about them, you probably wouldn't know. But if you ever stopped and just did your research and looked at some of the damn names, one thing you're going to find in common in all of them, they're going to have some real bulldogs. Real shit. I mean, shit that you can still talk about why they had this shit. Journey, when you had this shit just didn't stop in your hands. It went on. That's why we can still talk about they shit. all of them were able to do it. So that's where we stand on that. I'm not going to let you forget about them. And when it comes down to the dogs, if you can't forget about them, then and you want to know about them, you can. But then the more you know about them, the easier it is to understand us. Because remember, we had a piece of every one of them in us. Because what we took from each one. Go find out what that was. If you listen and know the people that we talk about and just know not just their dogs, but the type of dogs and how they were breeding, you would understand what part we got from them. Because all of them have history, all of them legendary. But once you know them as dog men and what they were doing, you'll understand what parts of what we got from each one. And that's where the fun part comes in, because you're going to find what it takes to be that person yourself. And once you got that part locked down, it's easy for you to not have to say much. And Journey don't even have to let, your dogs, your product will always speak for itself. And that's what makes a good dog man, a good line of dogs. That's what we're working toward. Give a damn how y'all get there. Until you find a way to get there, everybody just on some bullshit. So what's the fuss? All right, fellas, we're finna close this down. I need y'all to help me out. I see all that movement down there. Hold on, I got to get my shout outs together here. My man Courtney Edwards. My man, we're Mune. What up, fam?
What's up, Mune?
Big shout out to D. Ross. I see you, fam. We roll to Kennels. What up, fam? There's more. I know I seen more. Supreme Excellence. I see you, fam. Big Hill. Big Hill fam in the house. What up, fam? I think Don. In case I missed you the first time, Don. Big shout out to my man Tony Montana.
Tony!
I think that was pretty much our category. SFK Fred, I see you, fam. Talking to City Kennels in the house. Appreciate you, fam. I think I hit mainland. Oh man. What up, fam? Hey, fellas, I need y'all to help me out. I want to get back from this thing right quick. If y'all enjoyed the show, which I know y'all definitely did. Remember, tonight was Hot Mic Friday. Told you it was gonna be one of them nights, because we've been working up to this conversation, and we can get deeper into what we fixing to do as we move forward with that part out the way, because again, we're trying to find a way out. I'm going to put all this stuff together, and we're going to actually put together some different content. Things are going to change a little bit, because, it's time for that exit left, stage right, you know what I mean? But we're going to do this the right way. So I need y'all to help me out starting tonight, showing your appreciation by giving me them thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Muscles, muscles, muscles. Now, give me some damn roses, roses. We need them damn roses.
You need roses. We need roses to stop. Thanks, you guys, for coming out. I enjoyed the conversation. I mean, I would be live, and we need to put the phone number up.
It is.
I still don't get no calls. I still don't get no comments. But I know y'all enjoy me hearing say something though. I know y'all like when I say it. 'Cause you know I say it.
No. Not to make content, that's for damn sure. You know? So, understanding that, fellas, you know, we appreciate everybody coming through, supporting the channel. Big shout out, big shout out to the Shark Tank. To everybody else, even if you catch me on the replay, don't forget to hit the like button and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Please do.
You know, I think we have the dang Cash App that runs across the bottom. We also have an email address, Kennels Reloaded at gmail.com. Any comments, and then you got the comment section. You know, sometimes it helps us to see where y'all at. Because I know big shout out to people. You know, a lot of these guys like Courtney, some of these guys, they reach out. And it helps us help them. Because based on their knowledge, they're not greenhorns. They really into, okay, let me check this out. I want to make sure I got this right. Is this what it is, what you really think? Yeah, that's what it is, what it is. Check this out. You know, those kind of conversations are very helpful to them guys. Because I guarantee you, when the time comes, they're going to be able to have that conversation with somebody else and actually believe in it because they tried it, they put it together, and it worked. So it's easier when you have done it and it's working for you. And all they got to do is do what you said do. That's how you learned it. That's where we at with it just right now. You know, everything else, we don't look to try to give you nothing else but this. And this is not enough. You know what I'm saying? Then all we can say, we did our part. Because we leave enough videos behind. If you want to know anything about these bulldogs and the history of the American Pit Bull Terrier, this will be the place to find it. Archive it, use it as a reference point. I mean, I wish I could go back to all that shit because it takes time to put it in the right, to make it easier for y'all to find. We didn't, we wasn't technically trying to go into this to have that kind of shit set up like that. We always felt that if we just got them out there, they out there, you want to find out what it is, start from the very first one and work your way up. Because we generally did it all in a chronicle way in the very beginning. And still doing it because now we've had enough conversation that we can get down into detail. And if you don't know how to read a pedigree, just follow along. Listen to the conversation. Sometimes it pays to pay attention to what's going in the chat. These replays have the chat. A lot of information to be in there. Actually, it's you trying to use something as a reference point that's going to get you somewhere. You're going to find it in the right video. And they will become very, very helpful in the future. It just depends on who wants to do the looking and what you're looking for. But one damn thing for sure, when you pull up Going Hard Kennels Reloaded Talk Show, we're going to be talking about some damn bulldogs. Y'all know how we do this. Y'all know how we do this. So we get out of here, man. We'll be back here Tuesday. We'll talk shit Tuesday. Have something new on the plate. But until then, y'all have a safe weekend. Enjoy yourselves. And remember, regardless of what you do, how you do it, pay attention, believe in what you're doing. And if it's all about the dogs, you should have no problem.
No problem.
No problem.
You should
Always. I mean, you should always, damn it, scratch the win. That's automatically in the playbook when you're doing it the right way. You know what I'm saying? Don't talk about it. Be about it. Shit. S2W, baby.
That's right.
Representing Shark Tank, eating chump all day. We eat chump. Don't feed me.
Don't hold me to your leg.
Let him go. Let him go. We out here, man.
Hey, man. See y'all Tuesday, fellas. I got my information. Get up with me and holler at me. Tell me how you liked it.